Hello, my name is Nikhol Dalogdogan, and I'm an anthropology major. And today in this podcast, I'm going to talk about my understanding and my learnings in the gender, society, and culture class that I joined this sem. First of all, I would like to say that this class really helped me stretch my knowledge about gender and how it really affects our experience as humans living in a society. It really struck a lot of chord in me. Okay, so to start this, I'm gonna talk about the basics, like the difference between sex and gender. So, sex is usually used as the basis for constructing gender. Sex is something that is biological. Like, for example, if you have a penis, you're a male, and if you have a vagina, you're a female. It's a biological description. While gender, on the other hand, is something that is socially constructed. Gender dictates how you should behave, your roles and your functions in the society. Of course, gender is something that is not inherent. It is something that is not natural. It is a product of culture. That means that it changes and it develops over time. It is something that is not immutable. Stereotypes in gender can be really dangerous and can be problematic because, as well known, stereotype is a summary description of a group of people that is usually biased and oversimplified. Like, for example, gender stereotypes, males are expected and should be masculine, and females are expected and should be feminine. And sexes that do not conform to their stereotyped boxes tend to be stigmatized. The society actually gets somewhat of an allergic reaction to it, like especially a patriarchal society. Like, for example, there was this reading that my teacher gave us to read. It was called Witches and Whores No More. In the Middle Ages in Western Europe, there were actually estimated that between 30,000 and 9 million women were killed or tortured as witches, because witches were believed to be women who are influenced by the devil. Strong women were demonized because they weren't conforming to the patriarchal standard of what a woman should be. Like, for example, they should be submissive, should be passive, and should be gentler, and to be something other than that is usually something that is demonized. The same thing with males. If a male in a patriarchal society shows any gentler or any softer emotions or side, they are usually weeded out, or usually thrown homophobic slurs, because being gentle and being sensitive is a female trait, and to be female is something that is insulting. I remember reading this in a book called The Man They Wanted Me to Be by Jared Sexton. It says that boys learn about homophobia more before they understand adult sexuality and sexual identity. And homophobia among young boys is a reaction to misogynistic underpinnings of socialization, and this socialization that demeans young girls and promotes the objectification of women, and homophobia. And being a homosexual or part of the LGBTQ is particularly seen as traitors to their gender, that may result into bullying and discrimination that may affect people that were bullied because of it in the long term, like psychologically and even physically. Another thing that I have also learned was about man the hunter theory and how it was used to solidify sexism in the society, because man the hunter theory was written by white male upper middle class men, and anthropology was dominated by them, so the writings were, biased and androcentric. And in Man the Hunter theory, women were written as just like ornaments or features for men, that the role was to give birth and rely on men. And this idea was actually applied in the society that actually solidifies and justifies patriarchy, when actually that strategy that men hunt and women gather and take care of the children was actually an adaptive strategy that benefits both. But our world today is changing, and that strategy doesn't really apply today, because it is sexist, that will put people into gender stereotypes that are dangerous. That's why feminist anthropologists deemed these sexist researchers to question and challenging them by finding women in the archaeological record with feminist reconstruction, and they highlight and spotlight the female role in the evolution. Like for example, when bipedalism started to happen, the physicality of the apes also started to change. When the mother started to evolve and lose fur, there's no longer something that an infant can latch to, so the mother invented an invention to keep their hands free to collect more food. And feminist anthropologists suggest that maybe the first material technology invention were slings to carry babies and foods, and it weren't hunting materials. The idea that gender is something and that is fixed in dichotomy is a Christian and Western concept, because gender is not a biological trait. Like for example, in indigenous North Americans, they have people called Berdache, or also called the two-spirit, who assumes the role of the opposite sex, and they were considered as an affirmation of humanity's pre-gendered unity, and they weren't considered as threats to a rigid ideology of gender. They were treated with no discrimination. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that, to make the world be safer for human differences, and that is one of the purpose of anthropology. And we shouldn't let biology dictate our destiny.